Oh, I can't wait as well. Tomorrow is when spring training games actually start. We've seen some video coming out from camp. We've seen a little bit of them kind of warming up. Pitchers and catchers reported, then all the position players came in. Tomorrow is the day where we actually get to sit back and for the next 6+ months, 8 months, we get to actually sit back and watch baseball, and that all starts tomorrow. Dodgers versus Padres. We get it at, I believe, 12:05 Pacific time, 3:05 here on the East Coast. I couldn't be more excited about it. We actually get baseball. As you stated, it is time for Dodgers baseball. It's going to be 2024 Dodgers taking the field. I'm super pumped. Oh, I'm super excited about that. Obviously, both of these guys we've covered quite extensively here at Dodgers Daily, talking about them coming up through the minor league system, talking about them through a lot of their good periods and some of their rougher periods at the big league level. Both guys who have really important years ahead of them. Gavin Stone, obviously, last year made a lot of adjustments, went through a lot of learning curves, but also went through a lot of changes to the different style of pitcher that he is. So it's going to be really cool to see him kind of come back, how he's able to work through spring, how those adjustments are able to play against big league pitching. Again, this is a spring training environment. You don't want to take too much away. These guys are still working their way back. Still super excited to see him be able to compete and go with the adjustments that he's made, as well as for Michael Grove, who's going to be competing for a spot in this very loaded Dodgers bullpen with a lot of veteran arms. He's going to be fighting for a spot either out of the bullpen, or he could be working potentially more into what he has been the past, more as a starter type role. I would envision probably more of the bullpen, but he also showed a lot of promise, a lot of projection, and there's going to be times through the course of the season where Michael Grove is going to be called upon, and whether that's the start of the season, whether that's later in the season. So two younger guys, two guys with very promising futures for the Dodgers. I'm excited to see both of those guys go out there and compete, and just excited for Dodgers baseball, being able to see it on TV, or if you're in Arizona, being able to actually go to games if you're lucky enough to do so. There's nothing better than this. Hey Casey, just a heads up. I'm not, it says that there is no sound on here.
Do it right there. Okay, that probably did it right there.
Yeah, let us know down in the comments if you can actually hear us now. Thank you for doing that. I just looked down in the comments and just noticed it.
Yeah, very sorry about that. Again, all new settings. I thought I had all this done, but my apologies. Okay, so let's start this again. First of all, Austin, I think they could hear you. They just couldn't hear me. Is that correct?
I'm not entirely sure right now. Maybe, but I believe it should be all set right now.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so let's go. But you've already talked about the excitement of Gavin Stone getting the ball tomorrow. I'm pretty sure they could hear you talk about Michael Grove. So I'm going to start back over with where I'm at. Okay, first of all, I've mentioned that the starting 9 is already set. You got Tio in left. You got James in center. You got your platoon with Margot and Hayward in right. You got Freddie at first, Mookie at second. You got Lux at short. You've got Max at third base. And Will's your catcher. You have your 5 starting rotation guys. Okay. Yeah, you could hear Austin. I figured you could. So let's start back where I was at right there. I appreciate you guys hanging tight with us in the comment section there. Thank you very much for letting us know about that. So here's where the excitement is going to be. It's going to be, and then you also have Blake Trinan, you have Evan Phillips, you have Joe Kelly, Brusdar Gratterall, Ryan Yarbrough. Those guys are going to be on the 26-man roster. That leaves you 2 spots, okay? So the exciting part of spring training is going to be the battle for those last 2 spots and then the 5th starting rotation until Walker Buehler gets back, of which that seems to be a little bit more up in the air if you want to believe what some people are writing at this point. So I will say this. If John Rooney and Alec Gamboa, if neither one of those guys get their major league opportunity before the All-Star break, something is wrong. They are both guys that have done everything the organization has asked. They were both starters. They transitioned to the pen when they were asked to do so. John Rooney was asked to completely revamp his mix last year. He was asked to basically flip it on its head and turn into an East and West pitcher, and he did it, with an ERA a little over 2. There is nothing else these guys can do to get in to deserve an opportunity. I'm not saying give them an everyday role in the 26, but an opportunity to prove that they are worthy of being on the 26-man roster. So one of the things that I'm looking forward to in this situation, I know John Rooney was not invited to spring training, but he is going to get some appearances. I am really, really hoping. I'm super excited about all the acquisitions. I've made that very clear in the past shows. But I'm also really, really hoping the Dodgers didn't trade any of these guys. Okay, I went on several different tweets today and talked about a lot of the guys that are in different systems. They didn't trade away much of their pitching depth. And so not having done that, I think they have a duty with some of the spots they have available to give these guys an opportunity to prove themselves at the major league level.
Yeah, and I think these guys are going to have opportunities to fight for potential future opportunities in spring training. Spring training is where it starts. Spring training is where these guys come back. They're able to at least open up the door a little bit, if not for now, at some point in the future. And as you mentioned, these are 2 guys that have gone through the system quite a bit. They have fought, they have struggled, they had made adjustments. They've done everything that this organization has asked them to do. Now the question is about opportunity, because they're getting up there in age. They deserve to have an opportunity at some point in the near future. The question is when and how they're going to get their opportunity at the big league level. And this goes for a lot of different guys. There's a lot of guys, if the Dodgers decide to go with a more veteran heavy approach as far as the opening day roster, that means they keep guys like Blake Trinan. They go out and they make sure Daniel Hudson is on the roster. They make sure that a guy like maybe a JP Fireeisen is on the roster. If they go for more of a veteran heavy approach, that's keeping a lot of guys that are incredibly talented as depth within your system. The question is, how long do you keep them as depth pieces to where they lose all their value? They lose all of their ability to come up and become the pitchers that we expect them to be in the future. It is not just about, okay, they can take all of their development down at the minor leagues. there are adjustments that have to be made at the big league level. And I think you're pointing out for Gamboa and Rooney, they both deserve to have that opportunity at some point this upcoming season, probably fairly soon. The question is, in the Dodgers situation right now, would you want to put Alec Gamboa and John Rooney onto your 40-man roster, knowing that when Clayton Kershaw and Dustin May come back, you might very well have to cut one, if not both of those guys, and move on from them? That's probably would be in the better interest. That probably would be in the better. And it comes down to a point of Dodgers versus players, because if you're Alec Gamboa or John Rooney, you sign up for that 100%. You take that risk because that's going to provide an opportunity for you at the big league level. If you're an organization, if your goal is to hold on to as much talent as possible, maybe that's not the approach that you do just because you want to keep as much talent on your system as possible. Is that good for player development? Absolutely not. And that's wasting the talent of John Rooney and Alec Gamboa. It's going to be big year. It's about opportunity, and we'll see where those opportunities are able to rise. I'm rooting for them. I want them to get those opportunities. I also want other guys within the system to get opportunities, which is why we've talked a lot about in the past potentially moving some of these pieces. If you want to go with a little bit more of a veteran heavy approach, to try to get more veterans that might be better fits. That's why we kind of pushed the Jesus Luzardo trade. And that's also why I think it was really important for you to highlight some of the guys that are in positional battles going into spring training that aren't in Dodgers camp, but in other teams' camps. Because I think something that is really important about the Dodgers in maintaining this culture, because the Dodgers are great at development. They have the best coaches in here. They're great at building these guys up. What is important, or what should be important for the Dodgers, is to be able to maintain a culture that they continue to preach in this system. They tell all of these guys, as you mentioned, you're not auditioning just for the Dodgers. You're auditioning for all 30 clubs, meaning that you are fighting for a spot, not just for the Dodgers, but every single team out there. And that should be something where, man, if the Dodgers are able to make a trade and they're able to get something valuable in return for these guys fighting for their big league careers, we should celebrate that. We should celebrate what the Dodgers are able to do, as well as these guys in the system that move on to other clubs that have success in other organizations. I don't want it just for the sense of the Dodgers win, because I want this culture to be good as well. If you keep these guys in the minor league system, if you hold down their big league career, that's not going to create a good culture of development. Whereas if you give some of these guys opportunities, or you have some of these guys have success elsewhere, perhaps that's not good in the sense that you might lose a trade or two, but that is good for the Dodgers culture, for the minor league system to say for these minor league guys, hey, I might be blocked at a certain position, but I know that I can have opportunities elsewhere if I continue to fight. I continue to strive for my goals. I can raise up the value and potentially get pieces that are needed for the Dodgers to win a World Series. So I think all of this opportunity is what spring training is about. There's going to be spots that are open for business for the Dodgers. There's going to be, unfortunately, injuries that take place. And I think a lot of the stuff is going to work itself out. You just have to hope that these guys get opportunities so then they can make the living that they deserve, and they can have the opportunity that they've earned to prove themselves at the highest level of the game. And I'm excited to see what they're able to do. Spring training is the start of that.
So kind of my question would be, if you're not willing to bring them up on and put them on your 40-man and then give them a chance as 27-year-olds to have any kind of exposure at the major league level, then why are you considering them depth? How are they depth at that point, if you're not willing to use them anyways?
Yeah, no, that's really, really good questions.
I mean, what do you have them on? What do you have them in your system for? If they're 27 years old, they've already been in AAA for, this is going to be Alec Gamboa's part of his third year in AAA, and you're not willing to give them even an opportunity at the major league level, what's the point of having that guy in your system?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, and one that the Dodgers have to answer. I'm not saying that I'm not trying to defend the Dodgers in that at all. What I'm trying to say is there's also a lot of guys that are on the 40-man roster that also deserve opportunities as well. All of this is assuming that Kyle Hurt gets 0 innings at the big league level. That's not right. Ricky Vanasco, Gus Varland, Landon Knack, Michael Grove, all these guys get 0 innings. So there's very limited opportunity on this roster right now. There are a couple of left-handed pitchers right there. So there's a limited amount of left-handed relievers that you have as depth in this system. So you could potentially make the argument that you want to keep some of your left-handed depth at the top of the minor league level just in case. That could be an argument that you make, but with the acquisition, the getting Justin Wilson, perhaps that offsets some of that. Matt Gage is another really important one that could offset some of that. And with him on the 40-man roster, unfortunately, he could get the opportunities over a John Rooney and a Alec Gamboa. Not because Matt Gage isn't talented, just saying that in the sense of that's eliminating some of the opportunities for John Rooney and Alec Gamboa. So they both are going to have to compete. It's going to be tough, especially when you're down in Oklahoma City for what seems like again and again. But it's going to be that
What could they do to change the Dodgers' mind? What could they do? What could John Rooney do?
I don't know what can change the Dodgers' mind. They might have to embrace the attitude that the Dodgers teach, and that you're not just auditioning for the Dodgers. Make somebody else take notice of you. And I think that has to be their attitude. It might be completely unfair to both of them. They might do everything that they possibly can. It is that striving for continuing to do your work, even when it seems like nobody's watching, and even when it seems like the Dodgers might be neglecting or forgetting about you, continuing to go out there and succeed and fight for your dream, because it's not going to be given to you.
Well, I don't disagree with that. It's not going to be given to you. But my question would be, what else could John Rooney do to get on a 40-man roster or to get invited to a spring training? Literally, what else? I mean, a little bit over a 2-point ERA. He has 22 innings worth in his professional career of pickoffs, right? And let me give you a name that the Dodgers flipped last year, kind of like flipping homes. You buy a home low, you remodel it, right? And then you sell it back for way more than what you originally bought it for. Okay, the Dodgers are great at doing that with guys that they bring in their system. Okay, so let me give you a name. Brian Hudson, right? The Dodgers brought in Brian Hudson for nobody knew who he was. Okay, he was just depth. He was a 6'8" project type guy. They flip him for a really, really, really talented young left-handed pitcher in Justin Chambers, right? Because they developed him. And then the reason why they were able to flip him, Austin, you know why?
Why is that?
They gave him a shot at the major league level. They gave him major league innings that another club could look at and go, hey, the Dodgers were willing to put this guy in a major league game in a situation to where they were fighting for first place. This is a guy that we're willing to give up a Justin Chambers for. So if you take an Alec Gamboa, if you take a John Rooney, that you're not going to put on your postseason roster, right? They're just not going to be on your postseason roster. I hate to say that. I love the two guys. But just do the math, right? Then send them up to the major leagues, let them pitch 3 or 4 different times, DFA them, and then trade them like you did Brian Hudson, and go get you a left-handed pitcher that's 20 years old, that you don't need to be sitting in AAA at 27 years old. I mean, that's the only logical thing to do with those two guys. At that point, those guys get traded as a 40-man roster ad. They immediately go to the 40-man roster of the team they're traded to, and then they probably are going to a team that they're going to get major league innings with at the end of the year. The Dodgers weren't going to use those two anyways. Everybody wins in that situation. You get prospects in return.
Yeah, and I think that it very likely could be and probably would be something that the Dodgers would try to pursue during this season. Right now, when everybody, or at least a large portion of your roster, seems to be healthy, even other teams' 40-man rosters get really crowded. They have a lot of talented, really good pitchers that they have in their system. But as the attrition of the season goes along, as a lot of other teams' pitchers are dealing with a lot of injuries, I think that could present opportunities for the Dodgers to be able to take advantage of a move like this. I don't know if it's necessarily a move that can happen right now. Both John Rooney and Alec Gamboa were eligible for the Rule 5 draft. They were not selected. I think that was probably foolish for another organization. But if they're added to the 40-man roster, you would have minor league options with both of these guys. So that perhaps provides a little bit more flexibility for another organization to want a John Rooney and Alec Gamboa. And they're both incredibly talented pitchers. I think most organizations would love to have these guys as part of their system. I think this is going to be a big year for them. I hope that they get an opportunity at some point, whether that be with the Dodgers or whether that be with another organization. They both deserve it. This is what spring training is all about. It's about fighting. And then maybe you're able to crack a door open a little bit that could be opened up at some point in the future, not just for the Dodgers, but you're also pitching for other organizations as well, because everyone is paying attention, whether you realize it or not. Every single team is watching your outings. Every single team wants the same thing. They want to win a World Series. They want to win games, whether that be now or in the future, and they want to get incredibly talented players. I think these guys often get overlooked. I hope they get the necessary attention that they've earned this upcoming season.
No doubt about that. And the Rule 5 deal, that's just an argument that kind of frustrates me, because they got to go immediately to the 26-man roster, not the 40, right?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Alec Gamboa and John Rooney aren't even on the 40-man. So why would another organization take a guy that's not even on the 40-man roster for the organization they're in and then have to commit to putting them on their 26-man roster for the entire season? Otherwise, they have to return them. That's why, I mean, there's almost never guys that make an impact that are picked up in a Rule 5 setting.
Yeah, there are guys that are able to stick around. It is a long-term commitment you have to make at the major league level. Yes. But we saw guys succeed like Ryan Noda and Jose Hernandez this past in 2023 succeed from the Dodgers organization. I have no doubt that Alec Gamboa or John Rooney could have done that if another organization had picked them up, but it's also significantly less flexibility if you go with that route as opposed to getting them through a DFA setting where you're getting some minor league options attached to it as well. You could send them up and down if needed to. They're not necessarily on your 26-man roster the entire season. So that could open up additional opportunities for both of them. I'm sure it was disappointed because they want opportunities at the big league level not to get selected in the Rule 5 draft, but this is not the end of their story. They're too talented. They're going to continue to do good, just like all of these guys within this system. And the reason why they're not getting opportunities is because this big league club right now is incredibly stacked. And I know a lot of Dodgers fans are really excited about the prospects for hopefully going over that next hump and going and winning a World Series in the Shohei Ohtani era of Dodgers baseball.
I asked the Dodgers to do right by two guys that have given you everything they've got. They've done everything they've asked you to do. They've been there at every step. They've had great attitudes. They're Energizer bunnies. They're awesome dudes. I asked the organization to do right by those two guys, and if you don't have a role for them, figure out a way to get them somewhere else where they can get a role in the major leagues. Okay, enough of that. That's my tangent for the night. It is the eve of spring training, and tomorrow is going to be very, very, very exciting. Maybe the most exciting start to a season in my lifetime as a Dodger.
It's got to be, because this is the best offseason that they have. And that offseason brings excitement and it brings hope. And now we get to see the culmination of that hope, of that excitement, at least the initial ignition of the fire. We get to see this team start to form, and then this should be the start of a really special club. If the offseason is any indication, which Dodgers clearly won the offseason, they clearly addressed all of the needs that they had and then some for this big league club. They're sick and tired of what's happened the past couple of seasons during the postseason, and they're ready to start winning playoff series.
No doubt. They definitely doubled down on the veteran thing, so we'll see how that works out. No doubt about that. So we have a lot of people in the chat, and we have a great chat going on. Showtime LA, good evening, and thank you so much for joining Dodgers Dawgs really hoping to see Gavin Stone go out there tomorrow and dominate with that filthy changeup. And also you mentioned some of the adjustments last year. That cutter, that strike one pitch for him, the smaller looking slider, I think that's going to be a big one for him. So I think when Dodgers fans watch Gavin Stone, I think the number one thing I need to watch is, can Gavin Stone get strike one across the plate without it getting ambushed? That's going to be the key to him. Because if he can get that cutter over and then the fastball can work off that cutter to where he can get into pitcher's counts, then he doesn't have to land his changeup for strikes. That's when he gets his swing and miss. He can add more depth to his slider. That's where he gets swing and miss. So the key for Gavin Stone, let's watch and see tomorrow if he can pair that cutter with his fastball to get ahead in the count without getting ambushed.
Yeah, and this is going to be a very big spring for Gavin Stone, too. We talked about some potential openings in this Dodgers roster. There's not a lot of openings that they have going into spring training, but one of them could be a fifth rotation spot with Walker Buehler not starting the season on the Dodgers roster. That opens up a spot in this rotation. It could be filled by Emmett Sheehan. It could be filled by Gavin Stone, a Michael Grove, a Kyle Hurt, even a Ryan Yarbrough could be in competition if they want to go exclusively the veteran route. So this is going to be a big spring for Gavin Stone. Tomorrow is the start of it. If things don't go well, don't freak out. Look for some of those signs. This is spring training. This is very early. They're trying to get their feel. Think about the process when we were talking about spring training, but I also hope that he goes out and is able to have a really good dominant where he's able to get ahead in counts. I think that's going to be really key and a really important factor to look out for, those adjustments that he works so hard for during the course of this past season. See those adjustments get implemented in spring training game.
People have been counting Gavin Stone out his entire life. They've been telling him he's too small. He did not. I mean, he went to a smaller Division I school, University of Central Arkansas. He did get drafted in the 5th round, but I'm just telling you, people that doubt Gavin Stone, that's fuel to his fire. I will be very, very excited to see how he bounces back. Also very excited to see how Michael Grove pitches tomorrow and how all of that gets started off for the Dodgers. Just a super amount of excitement surrounding this season and headed into it. Hey, Showtime, I know we're pro prospects here, but I wouldn't mind seeing Teoscar re-sign. Great clubhouse guy that Dodgers fans are going to fall in love with this year. Interesting you say that, Show. If you go back to the Dodgers Dog shows that Austin and I did when they were considering signing Teoscar Hernandez, literally the number one thing Austin and I both said about Teo is, hey, the home runs are going to be great, but this guy is going to instantly become a fan favorite with the Dodgers because he has that happy-go-lucky, very positive, just very contagious type attitude. That was literally like the first thing Austin and I mentioned about Teo, because Austin and I being around this organization as much as we do, we understand how important the culture part of things are when they bring new guys in. When they're bringing a new guy in like Teo Hernandez, I promise you the very first consideration is he a fit in this culture and in the clubhouse? And he was the perfect fit. So I love that you brought that comment up, Show. Great job.
Yeah, no, that's a really good comment and things to think about for the future. Right now, I think on this big league club, James Outman is the one outfielder, not counting Chris Taylor, that's going to be on this team in 2025. Yeah. So you're thinking about future additions to this outfield and how the outfield is going to look like in 2025 and beyond. I don't know if the Dodgers, and obviously they would have signed him to a multi-year deal. They want to see how Teo is able to do this season, perform for the Dodgers, if he's able to hit for a lot of power, limit some of his strikeout ability. But if it turns out to be a really good fit, which culture-wise seems to work out, I think he's got some really good numbers and can add a lot to this Dodgers lineup. It could very well work out to being a very good fit, him being a lefty masher in this lineup. And then you also have guys that are going to be fighting for future outfield spots, and Vargas and Pages coming up through this system that are estimated to come up potentially and get opportunities in 2025 and beyond. So that is another thing to keep in mind. I think the longer you wait, it might be a little bit more expensive depending on how Tio is able to do for the Dodgers.
Yeah,
right now he's under contract for 2024. I'm expecting him to have a really good, successful season, fill the void that the Dodgers need. We'll see what happens after the season.
All right, man. Sometimes you have like a really cool 5 minutes in your life, right? I just flipped over to Instagram and two really cool things, Austin. Tyrone Lorenzo just messaged. I sent him the feature article that I wrote. If you have not read the feature article, go to Dodgers Daily. The feature article is up for Tyrone Lorenzo. That includes a link to his interview at the top. He just messaged back. He read it and he loved it, and he's super excited about it. And he messaged about how much he liked it and to say thank you. Also, really cool moment, okay? Hey, guys, I love your show. This is from Alistair Hogg. I love your show. Informative, positive, well-presented. Okay, one of the favorite listens on Spotify. And let's see, hold on one second right here. I want to get to the really cool part here. Was hoping you guys might be able to cover Jose Ramos in an upcoming episode. Bullish on this kid if he can reduce the strikeout rate. How raw is he? How much time does he have before potentially breaking through? Okay, so this is a person that because of, let's see, I don't ever really get to the live version because they live in Dubai. How cool is that? How cool is that we have fans that we're able to keep connected with the prospect coverage with the Dodgers from Dubai. So you know what we're going to go to almost immediately right now, Austin? We're going to go to coverage of Jose Ramos because that is just super cool. So how about that 5 minutes in my life where you flip over to Instagram, you get a message from Tyrone Lorenzo, then you get a message from Alistair Hogg that is such a wonderful message like that, and it's from Dubai. How cool is that, huh?
Oh no, that is really cool to see just the growth of Dodgers Daily, to see it go a little bit international. I know we've had people comment from all sorts of the world. We had somebody from Thailand, now somebody from Dubai. I think it is really cool to be able to reach out to all sorts of different audiences and be able to present just the amount of talent that there is within the system, not just at the big league club, but also in the minor league system. And I'm really excited about Jose Ramos and his potential. I know some people might be a little bit more down on him a little bit, but I think there's still a ton of potential. Remember, this guy's only 23 years old. He spent a lot of time in the upper levels of the minor leagues all of this past season in Double-A Tulsa, and still was able to put up some pretty solid numbers in his first full year there. He's got a lot of incredible tools. His power is unbelievable. I've talked a lot about how he would hit home runs when he was with the Great Lakes Loons, the high A affiliate of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He would hit it out of the ballpark onto Buttle Street quite a bit. He has that type of raw power. In the past couple of seasons, he's sat at, well, last season at Double-A Tulsa, he sat at 19 home
19 home runs is what
even
he's talking
more
about.
Home run power. Yeah, this kid has even more home run power potential than that. And I think he also has that. He's got the great arm in the outfield. He can play a lot of center field too. He does have a little bit of strikeout swing and miss ability. So there is a little bit of swing and miss that he's working on in his game, which we did see that go down a little bit this past season, got down to about 29%. I look at his profile, I look at a lot of his tools, and it reminds me, not exactly, but a little bit of what happened when Andy Pages went and spent his full year in Double-A Tulsa.
Yes.
His WRC plus was right around 100. He was right around a league average hitter at the Double-A level. He was still working through a lot of different adjustments, but that next season he came back and he just ran away with everything, and he was dominant until he unfortunately went down with an injury. I think that can be the upside of a Jose Ramos, was he got a full year, full season at the Double-A level in Tulsa, was able to work through the adjustments, went through a lot of adversity that team went through this past season. And now I think he's going to be able to rebound and make those adjustments, go from a 97 WRC plus that he had last season, more towards his range of the 130, 117 that he had in Great Lakes, more into that range. If he can rebound, have a little bit more power, if he can just cut down on the strikeouts just a little bit, all the tools are there. Played in the World Baseball Classic for his home country of Panama. I like a lot of the tools that Jose Ramos has, and I think there is potential to have a bounce back similar to what Andy Pages did this past season. If he does, man, watch out, because this guy could enter into the conversation of the 2025 Dodgers outfield.
So this is where he goes wrong right here, in my opinion. Okay, so what I want you to watch here is watch him drop his hands. See that right there? Okay, let me get it stopped here. I stopped it just a minute ago. Let's see if I can get it stopped right there. See how he's dropping his hands? Now, watch what that's going to do. That's going to cause him to drop his hands and then swing straight up at the ball. See that right there? That's called a loop, Austin. And the further that you go in professional baseball, trust me, if I can see that loop right there, see how he dropped his hands? And now he's going to come back up at it right there. If I can see that, I promise you other professional coaches who do this for a living can see that very, very well. And then the deal is when you're like at Rancho, okay, guys are just literally just trying to throw strikes. They're not trying to, I mean, their command's usually not good enough. They're trying to pitch to a scouting report, but they're not command-wise good enough to do it. But as you get to about the AA level, guys start to become good enough to pitch to your loop or to your weaknesses, right? And so a guy like Andy Pages, who might go around the ball, or a guy like Jose Ramos, who might drop the hands and loop with his swing, that starts to become a real hole for them, because guys can more consistently at that point can actually throw the ball to parts of the zone that are going to beat that loop that Jose Ramos has. See this is when Jose Ramos goes right. See the difference in his hands right here? I know the location of the pitch is different, but see how he kept his hands on a flat path there. And now what he's going to do here, watch, he's just going to turn that barrel with the top end, boom. That's when Jose Ramos is going right there. This is what he was trying to do all last year, was try to create that swing to keep his power, but then also become a little bit more consistent. And I can also tell you this, Jose Ramos hit the furthest home runs I have ever seen in Tulsa. This guy has watch this catch right here too, by the way. This is Jose Ramos when he's at Rancho. Watch this. Willie Mays. Whoop, right there. How about that one, huh? And I can tell you, Jose Ramos has maybe more power than anybody in the organization. And I only say that this deserves an encore, because Tulsa has that little food hut up above the left field wall. Here's a grand slam for Ramos too. And he hit that hut in the air, and I've never seen anybody else do that. And I've seen some dudes hit some baseballs in Tulsa. So the power for Jose Ramos when things go right, like this swing right here, when things go right for him, he has as much power as anybody I have seen, period. It's going to be a matter of if he can actually get the bat on the ball consistent enough to be a major leaguer. But I will say this, I still think he's working through things, but I still think he's quite a bit raw. Would that be too negative, Austin?
No, I think that just speaks to the level of tools that he has to work with. That we're talking about him even being raw when he's having this level of production, when he's still able to hit home runs like he just did right there, and play incredible outfield, play a prime position in center field as well. There's so much to work with when you're talking about Jose Ramos that gets you excited about the future of him. There's still stuff, obviously, that he has to work on, and he's going to continue to work on, but I'm excited to see what he's able to do going forward. I think the tools are all there, the power, the defensive ability that he has, all of these different things should translate well. It's about making sure that he's able to provide enough consistent contact so that he can be successful at the big league level.
This is another guy that Alistair wanted us to check out, and this is Rain Don Cone. So if you go to spring training, go to the backfields, check this guy out. They call him Donkey. Don Cone is absolutely huge, and he hasn't to this point. Of course, he was dealing with some injuries last year, So it's really hard, just from a statistical perspective, it's hard to really get a gauge on what Raindon Cone was last year. Based on it, I know he hit 14 home runs. His OPS was only 651. But having said that, that's due to injury. So don't take any of that into account whenever you're trying to evaluate what is Raindon Cone. This is a big guy that has the potential to have a lot of power and also lots and lots of bat-to-ball skills. I really like Raindon Cone. He's one of my favorite young players because I think there's a myriad of different ways that this guy, see that hit right there? That hit right there just shows you that he's going to be able to pick up spin. He can let the ball get a little bit deep. He can shorten his swing, and he can bat the ball. But then also, if he's ahead in the count, I love that swing right there. When he's ahead in the count, he can also just tee off and do that right there and try to get one in the air and really hit the baseball hard. So this is a guy at the single A level that just didn't have a chance to get consistent playing time enough last year to really get in any kind of a groove. Super excited. I think this time, maybe about 6 months, maybe about 3, 4, 5 months from now, we'll be able to have a lot better conversation about Raindon Cone. But I think at this point, you have to put him in the tools category. And when you look at size, you look at potential for speed, very soft hands when fielding the baseball, good athlete, that type of thing. I think Raindon Cone from those perspectives is exciting.
Yeah, when I've been trying to go through just some of the lists, just for my own personal thing, one, I'm trying to get a little bit of an expectation of what the high A affiliate Great Lakes Loons are going to look at. Raindon Cone is one of those guys that I've identified, and one of those guys that I identified that could be one of those surprise type seasons where you look up and say, oh man, this guy is really good. One, he's positionally versatile. He can play second, third, and short. He's been at least 25 games at each one of those different positions this past season. Another aspect that I think is important to look at, one you mentioned with injuries, he also was getting fairly unlucky with a lot of the batted ball data, only a 248 batting average on balls in play. And typically that batting average on balls in play is right at around 300 is the league average. And if it's anything below that, if it's closer to 250 to 200, you're expecting some sort of regression back to that 300, meaning that some of those line drives that were caught should be hit for a little bit more singles. And I think last year it was a tale of a couple of different seasons. You look at his stats through May. He had a 105 WRC plus through May. He had a 202 ISO, had pretty good walk numbers, and was able to limit some of the strikeouts with some of that power that he provided. June through August was a little bit of a different story, dealing through injuries, really struggled down the stretch. I think this is one of those guys where he's positionally versatile. He's got pretty good bat to ball skills. He's got a pretty good eye up there, meaning he's right around where he needs to be with that. He's got a lot of tools and a lot of power, and I think there's more luck that can be had in there. I'm really excited to see what he is able to do. I think this is one of those guys that you can ID, similar to, and I'm not saying they're the exact same player, but similar to when a guy like last year, Austin Gauthier, came up to the Loons, and his batting average on balls in play was around 200, but he was still had a lot of good skills that he was working with, and then all of a sudden he broke out. Not saying that they're the exact same type of player, but this is one of those guys that you can ID and say, man, there's so many tools to work with. He's positionally versatile. There's a lot of power that's in that bat. He had showcased some of his ability to be able to be incredibly productive. I think this is one of those guys that we can look up and say, this guy was able to bounce back and have a really good, really awesome season.
So there's two ways to evaluate a guy. One, well, there's a way more than that, but you can evaluate, hey, what type of floor does this guy have? You know, is he ever going to be a guy that yes, he has the top end, but then he has the really, really, really low lows, right? So the Dodgers tend to like the guys that don't have the real lows. They like the high floor type of guys, obviously, and then obviously the top end guys as well. But if you look at the top end here from a power perspective, watch that. I can remember watching this game, and the Visalia, the play-by-play guy who does a wonderful job, I don't know I can't remember his name at this moment, just kind of giggled and just kind of went, that's the farthest ball I think I've ever seen hit in my life. I mean, so this guy, Raindon Cone, he's still a baby, man. He's still learning. But you see right there, the power potential is there for this guy. So, hey, Alistair, I want to thank you so much for your wonderful comments. I want to thank you for messaging. Reach out anytime you want something. I know the timing doesn't fit to where you can reach the live shows. So reach out as much as you want, and we will cover anything and everything that you would like for us to. So, hey, there is Rain Don Cone. There is Jose Ramos, and there are our takes on those two guys.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And if you guys down in the comment section live, you have the privilege to be able to be part of this show live. We get to read some of your comments live, and we certainly enjoy doing that. If you have any of these guys in the system that you're curious on or haven't seen footage of, or just like our opinion on, we're more than happy to be able to talk about that. Casey and I, that's what we thrive on doing here at Dodgers Daily on Dodgers Dogs here on Wednesday night. Also, if you haven't done so yet, just leave a like, go ahead and like this video, leave a comment down there. We certainly appreciate that. You guys are absolutely awesome, and we thoroughly enjoy doing this.
Yeah, we have a comment from a question from Mr. Seabat. Have the minor leagues released their schedule? Yes, they have. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at the Oklahoma City Baseball Club's schedule right now, looking to make some games in multiple non-major league cities, and need to know when the Dodgers farm teams are in town. So, yes, their schedule is out. One-Eye Dragon, great to see and hear you. Yeah, I know my audio, again, still working on every single setting. I apologize for that, but we are rocking and rolling now. So thank you so much, One-Eye Dragon, for always joining and being such a great part of Dodgers Daily. Barnes for commissioner, says One-Eye Dragon. Yeah. Hey, Showtime LA, Casey, I saw the Athletics say that DePaula could grow into a first baseman with his frame, and that he said he's already a below-average runner. I will say this, I have not seen he's talking about Josue DePaula. I have not seen Josue DePaula run enough and play the outfield to give any kind of qualified evaluation on that. Austin, would you be in the same boat as me?
I have not visited California before in my lifetime, so I've not been able to see him out at Rancho. I'm expecting to see him here at Great Lakes. I'm anticipating that very much so, and so we'll get a little bit of a closer eye on that. There's a lot of other prospect coverages that love the tools that Josue DePaula has, that think he's going to be able to stick out in the outfield, that think he's going to be at least an average type of runner. I think he's going to grow. I think he's going to develop, and I think he's going to be at this point there's a lot of potential to grow and be a really good, solid big leaguer. Obviously, still a long ways away. The Athletics seems to like other prospects that the Dodgers have a lot. Maybe not as highly on Josue DePaula. I wouldn't worry about that too much. Just let the process continue to develop and have patience, because these guys are going to be working on it. They're surrounded by the best coaches in minor league baseball, and I'm really excited to see what Josue DePaula is able to do this upcoming season, because I think he has all the tools to be a phenomenal player.
Yep, and I really love his swing. I liken it to Bernie Williams. As a matter of fact, I put out a tweet about a week ago showing him and Bernie Williams swing side by side, and they are almost identical. So, hey, I don't mean to skip that question there, but I think if you follow Dodgers Daily, you know that if we have not seen them with our own eyes, we don't feel like we are qualified to give an evaluation. And so we wait until we do. So sorry about that show, but that's just kind of where we're at.
Yeah, and we'll give as much as we can. We'll report some of the numbers or see what we've seen, because we've seen a lot of footage of these guys as well. Just haven't had a chance to watch their game in person, and especially stuff like speed, how they're able to work out in the outfield is very difficult with some of the being able to watch it on TV, especially at the minor league level. Yeah,
Craig says you invested years in these young players, don't give them away for nothing. That's exactly my point, Craig. If you do what you did with Brian Hudson and you give Alec Gamboa and John Rooney a little bit of runway at the major league level, then you're actually going to be able to maximize the value that you can get back in them, like you did at Brian Hudson. If the Dodgers had kept Brian Hudson in AAA last year, what would they have gotten for return out of him once he became a free agent? What would they have gotten out of him?
Nothing.
And instead, they got Justin Chambers back because they sent him to the major league level. That's the whole point about Alec Gamboa and John Rooney. If they're not in your future plans, if they're not two of your high leverage lefties that you plan on those guys being the dudes in your bullpens as left-handers, then maximize their value by taking them up to the major league level like you did, Brian Hudson, and then you're able to trade them through a DFA setting for another really nice prospect. That is the whole reason, the number one reason why you would do that, in my opinion. Does that make sense, Austin?
Yeah, that makes sense. You have to make sure before you go ahead and do this that they're going to have some type of trade partner that you're able to get some type of good return. Because what you don't want to happen is call them up to the big leagues, then go ahead and DFA designate them for assignment, and then you didn't do your homework and there isn't really a trade partner out there. And then in which case you're just giving them up as well. So you have to do a little bit of homework. These guys are talented, and through the course of the season, there are going to be spots that are going to open up within organizations for pitchers to come. And I think that's when you can maximize on the opportunity that you have. Or it could be the case that they get called up to the Dodgers and they become really good staples of this Dodgers bullpen. And that would be an awesome scenario as well.
The one scenario that does not ever work out for the club is if these guys just stay in AAA and never come to the Major League club. That's the one scenario where they provide absolutely zero value for anybody. So that's the situation you got to stay away from. And they're also 27 years old. So, hey, Devo, Go ahead,
I was just about to mention that as much as Casey would like to watch these guys pitch in Oklahoma City, he does not want to watch them pitch there forever, because that means that they're not getting the opportunity at the big league level.
Devo said this is one of the reasons why I think it's finally time for MLB expansion. So much talent in the minor leagues, not getting a chance. It's time to open the door a little bit for more players to play. The thing that if they're going to fix this, what they got to do is they got to make it to where teams like the Dodgers can't keep all their prospects and then also go get all the free agents. So really what would do that is a hard cap. A salary cap, actually, it would hurt the top end players. So the top end, because the Dodgers would only have a certain amount of money to spend, right? So it would hurt the top end contracts, but what it would do is it would help all the prospect type of guys coming up, because if the Dodgers only had a certain amount to spend, once they got to that level, guess what they'd be forced to do with, say, the bottom third of their roster, Austin? They would have to be forced to be using all of their prospects to fill out that rest, because they can't go over a certain amount. So if they actually the only way to solve this issue is to actually put in a hard cap, but that's never going to happen.
Yeah, that's never going to happen, which is why you have to think about alternatives. And I think that's why expansion is such an exciting thing, because that's going to open up opportunities for more of these guys. They still have to work out what's happening in Oakland and with Tampa Bay, but once that works out, it sounds like that very well is on the table, and MLB could be expanding to 32 teams, which we haven't seen expansion in a while. So I'm excited to see what that happens. Still a ways away from that, though.
Denard, with Dodgers overloaded in pitching prospects, you see any of them getting traded at the trade deadline to improve the major league roster? I don't at the moment. I don't know who it'd be. I don't know who it would be that would have enough trade value that the Dodgers would actually go and get the guy that they feel like they need at this point.
As far as getting other teams with some of the pitching prospects that they have, I think you just have to right now sit back and wait to see what happens, because the same 26-man roster that is going into the season that will leave camp will not be the same that happens around the trade deadline. Things will happen, in which case that is going to potentially open up opportunities for the Dodgers to trade some of the depth that they have, and they have a lot of really good pitching depth. So right now it is impossible to predict what's going to happen, which is why I think the Dodgers aren't going all out and trading for Willy Adames immediately. One, because they want to see what Gavin Lux is able to do, and also they want to save some of their trade chips in case there are other pieces and other needs that develop through the course of this season. So it can happen. I could see it happening. Will it happen? I don't know. And in which areas are they going to need to patch? I don't know. They have a lot of depth that they have on this team right now to try to fill in some of those holes as needed. But in a lot of scenarios, you want to fill those holes with a little bit of nicer pieces, in which case that could open up opportunities for the Dodgers to make trades, which they almost certainly will this season.
Jay, hey, good evening, Jay. Thank you so much for joining. Jay is our absolute rock star. He's a rock star Dodger daily, if you will. He is just absolutely simply fantastic. I want to see Gamboa and or Rooney at the major league level before the trade deadline. I'd like to see if one of these guys could emerge as a trusted playoff pin piece. The new veteran lefties are not elite. So some people might say, hey, it's the eve of spring training. Why are we talking about guys like Alec Gamboa, John Rooney? Because, again, I'm going to go back to our conversation at the top. The real competitions on this team are the last two bullpen spots. Those are really the only competitions that are even in question right now. The fifth starting spot, obviously, until Buehler gets back as well. So we bring up those types of scenarios. Ricky Vanasco, Gus Farland, J.P. Fireeisen, Alex Vesia, Alec Gamboa, John Rooney, guys like that, because the true competition as far as who's evaluating who's going to end up on the 26-man roster is those two spots. And those are the two spots, if you're looking to see, hey, what are the competitions out there, those are the two to look for.
Yeah, at least going into camp, those seem to be the two spots that could be open or that there could be competition, because it seems like going into camp, the position player side is pretty much all set, unless you want to get rid of somebody that's already positioned to be up there to make room for a Miguel Vargas, or unless you envision an Austin Barnes versus Hunter Fiducia battle, which I'm assuming that Austin Barnes is going to get the upper hand of that, even if you think that Hunter Fiducia is the more talented player right now. He still is under team control, or at least he's under contract for this upcoming season. Austin Barnes is. So that limits some of the competition going into camp for either that last rotation spot or some of the bullpen pieces, which brings up all of the names that we've been talking about all offseason on the pitching side of guys that are going to be competing and fighting. For a lot of these younger guys, it's going to be an uphill battle for them because they have that minor league option. This is almost like they have to doubly prove what they're worth to try to fight for a spot on this big league club, because they're going to have to prove above and beyond that you should put them on your roster and you should move on from some of the veterans. This is what good, healthy competition is going to be. They're going to be fighting. They're going to be competing. The Dodgers have a ton of talent. That is a good problem to have if you're in the Dodgers, if you're this organization. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be the thing to watch right now for spring training, as well as some of those younger guys that are able to come up in the late innings of spring training, get some experience, and then you also get a sneak peek of what future Dodgers teams could look like, because it wasn't that long ago that Bobby Miller, that Emmett Sheehan, that Kyle Hurts, that Landon Knack, that all of these guys that we see, or James Outman as well, all of these guys that we see on the Dodgers team now or are fighting for a team on the Dodgers right now were guys that you didn't know their names of that were playing in late innings during this spring training game. So you'll get a little bit of sneak peek of that, but it is about those competition for the potential opening spots on this loaded Dodgers roster.
Nando says, trade the prospects, going all in this year. I am 100% on that train. Trade the prospects, go all in. That is a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, and then it is about who do you target and when do you target those pieces. So right now, I think the Dodgers are in a really good position. They have a lot of depth at the trade deadline, especially if you have a lot of younger pieces that are getting older and pitchers that are just sitting there in the minor leagues. Absolutely don't waste their career down in Oklahoma City just so you can have some depth. Get what you need to reinforcements. Make sure that you have flexibility to where you can get those reinforcements that are needed through the course of the season at the trade deadline. But if there's a really good option that you can pick up, Tanner Scott perhaps, or another good bullpen piece, maybe you go out and attack that if it's for the right price, and the Dodgers feel like that is going to significantly improve this team's chances of winning a World Series, because this team is all in 2024. So make sure that you present yourself with the best opportunity to win. That doesn't mean get rid of everybody at the lower levels of the farm system. Make sure that you still have depth that can come up into where you can trade a lot of these guys, but that means taking advantage of this opportunity that is given to you in 2024.
No doubt about that. So, hey, great comment there, Nando. Mr. Seabad, the Dodgers are so lucky there's not a transfer portal in the minor leagues. All the young Dodger talent would be gone. Yeah. Hey, Hep C, let's see if you agree with this, Austin. You're the one who likes the advanced analytics as far as how it actually plays in the terms of success and failures and being able to evaluate guys. Hep C says defense in the major leagues is overrated, kind of. It's all about the offense. As long as Muncy and Lux are average, it's fine.
as far as average defensively, there's a lot of different aspects to the game of baseball, and it is difficult to see how they are weighted. So I think if you're talking about just the general weight of the offensive and defensive components of baseball, I think you can have a little bit more of an impact on the offensive side of the game of baseball that can overshadow some of the perhaps neglections of the defensive side of baseball. What I mean by that is there might be a limited amount of runs that you can prevent on the defensive side in comparison to the amount of runs that you can produce on the offensive side of the baseball. Where that balance is between offense and defense,
that makes sense.
I don't know exactly what that balance is, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that have dug into that numbers as far as run prediction. I'm sure that they've done a lot of different analytics and run some statistics on that, but I get the point. Having a better offensive profile is probably a little bit safer. You have a little bit of a higher potential for producing runs, as opposed to, especially if you're more average defensively, you're not a negative or a positive, you're kind of just league average, you're saving around a league average amount of runs. There's a lot of good that can come from the defensive side, and that shouldn't be neglected. But if your offense is just overwhelming, I think that is a little bit of a better feature to have, especially on this Dodgers team that seems to score a whole lot of runs. Both elements are important. I would weigh a little bit more on the offensive side, which is why I think a Max Muncy is a really valuable piece, and why you've seen him, despite being negative value defensively, still be a 2.5, 3 WAR type of player at third base this past season. Gavin Lux can still be a really good, solid piece. So defense shouldn't be completely neglected, but you shouldn't overvalue it completely and totally neglect just the offensive performance that they're both able and capable of.
Yeah, that is
really interesting conversation.
That is, and a lot of times too, your defensive plays are almost all routine, right? And then let's say you do make an error in a game, and then the other team doesn't score. So even though you made an error, you made all your routine plays, you didn't cost your team. Maybe you cost a single pitcher 7 or 8 pitches, but beyond that, you honestly didn't cost your team anything, right?
And especially in this game of baseball where it is very 3 true outcome heavy. 3 true outcomes, if you're not familiar, are strikeouts, walks, and home runs. In those 3 true outcome scenarios, assuming it's not an inside the park home run or not a drop third call a strike, which technically those would count in this scenario, that takes out the game of defense completely, which means there's even less of an emphasis on the defensive performance when 3 true outcomes are heavily emphasized, or that seems to be the way that the organizations are going. And with this Dodgers team that has a lot of guys that can strike out a lot of guys, that even though they might give up some walks, but they're not allowing a lot of batted balls to go and play. That limits some of the necessity to have great defense because there isn't as many balls put in play, to where maybe the offensive output is the more heavy emphasis that you should have. So that is something that is important to keep in mind. Again, not saying that defense shouldn't be taken into account. I think defense obviously is very important and can show up in some of those short sample size in those crucial moments. Ball gets hit to you and you should have made the play, but you didn't. But that doesn't, in the larger sample size, I think it makes more sense to focus on that offensive profile over defensive profile, which it's very fascinating conversation.
And here's another argument to that too, is that it's a lot easier to find just decent defensive players, right? It's a lot harder to find Max Muncy's offense than it is to find a guy that is just a decent defensive guy. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So when you do find a guy with Max Muncy's power type offense, I complain about it because I still like all of the things to go together, right? But it's harder to find that guy than it is to go find a guy that can play good defense.
Yes, and it turns out that hitting the baseball at the major league level with the amount of the stuff that these pitchers throw with, it turns out that's kind of difficult. And finding those guys who can do it consistently is not easy to do. And when you have guys that are good on the offense, and they might not be the greatest defensively, but I think teaching them and having them do tricks to at least take care of their routine plays, but be able to hit well at the major league level, I think that is a very hard and difficult thing to teach. And I'm grateful that the Dodgers have guys on the left side of the infield, at third and at short, and Lux and Muncy, who at least have that offensive component that you could rely upon this upcoming season, to where it might be a little bit of a question of their defensive ability, but you have one component, the most difficult component of the game, down at least a little bit to a certain degree of expectations and comfortability.
Yep. Hey, Denard says the last show is about Lux. Many doubters about his shortstop defense. Do you have any video of him? So here it is. And also, you say this all the time, Austin. You actually... You kind of got me caught on this. And by the way, I want to say this out loud. We have a wonderful crowd here. Hey, don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment. If you haven't subscribed, do that as well. I want to say this out loud, okay, because I'm an older guy, right? I grew up with the ERA. I grew up with batting average. Advanced analytics, I'm around them all the time. My coaching career, I was around them. I'm around them in the Dodgers. I know exactly how they work. I know exactly the benefit of them. I know exactly how they were used, both by the managers, the coaches, the organization, and the players. I know all about them, okay? I want to give you a massive compliment, though, Austin, because it's truly incredible the way that you're actually – see, for a guy like me, a guy who's been in baseball my whole life, what you have to do for a guy like me is explain to me, okay, yeah, I understand the statistic, but how does it actually work in terms of evaluating whether a guy is actually successful or not, right? You're able to create the narrative and explanations that actually explains to a guy like me, this is why this statistic actually works, this is why it's working, and this is why you should believe that it's going to work in the future. You do the best job I've ever seen of anybody describing all that. So, hey, we are very lucky to have you on this show talking about all these analytics.
Well, I really appreciate that. I'll give that credit to my days of being a teaching assistant, which all that meant was I was the professor of an introductory statistics class at grad school. I taught that for 2 years, and I had to explain to people who didn't want to be in a statistics class all of these different statistics and get them through that class in a productive way. So I'll give that to that. And it's one thing to have all of these numbers down on a spreadsheet. I can look at that and be fascinated by the numbers for days. But I also know that not everybody is deep into that numbers. They don't know the formulation as far as what these numbers actually mean, how they're calculated, and how they actually apply to the game. All of these have to be taken into account and translated to people, not just for guys like you, but also for the guys on the field as well, because they're given so much information, and they need to be taught and told exactly what they need in the environment that they need it. So it's not just that they're given a whole bunch of different numbers with no context and no clues. They're given this information presented it in a way that they can actually apply and use that information and understand it. And so it takes people to be able to translate it and understand it. And I just happen to enjoy the game of baseball enough to make my own spreadsheets, to do these own calculations where I can get a little bit of a better understanding. And then I can use the skills that I've been taught, or at least self-taught through teaching, to be able to explain that to people. So it's something that I enjoy, something that I use in my own profession as a statistician. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you do a wonderful job with it. And also, too, another thing that we've gone back and forth with is that there's so many advanced analytics out there, you have to know which set of actual metrics is relevant for each player, because for each player it's different. Like for one player, it might be extension and carry. For the next player, it might be vertical break. For another player, it might be exit velo. For another player, it might. So you can't just say, here's the advanced analytics, this is how you evaluate every play based on these analytics, because every player's success and the reasons for their success are different. So you're going to have different metrics that you're going to need to evaluate them by. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, you have to take everybody into context. You have to look at the whole picture of everything. You have to also you have to try to identify what you're looking for in a player. You're looking out for
Yes,
potential
correct.
concerns, or are you looking out for, okay, these are some of the bright spots. These are some of the tools that we could potentially see these guys having. So when you're looking at players at the minor league level, you're looking at a mixture of both. We particularly like to highlight a lot of the things, the tools, some of the upside that these guys have, because I think that is the best way towards highlighting a lot of these guys and seeing a lot of these guys grow and develop, thinking about a lot of the potential, because we want these guys to succeed. And these are going to be the tools that they need to lean into to succeed at the next level. That doesn't mean that each one of these guys doesn't have areas of concern. Every single player has areas that they need to work on and improve, and they are working on and improving. And perhaps that is just something that they're working on as they're continuing to develop throughout the system. So you have to keep all of this in mind. Context does matters, and all of these analytics, for as good as they are, they don't provide the full picture of everything. So you have to take all of that in mind. Use these to try to help benefit your club, benefit your organization, try to find ways for these players to take this information and be able to learn and adapt from it, just to make them as better players, and for your club to be able to make smarter, better decisions. But they're not the full, complete answer to everything, because there's not really statistics out there that are present the full, complete picture, because turns out life is messy and very difficult to predict.
No doubt about that. And so why do we have this conversation? This is exactly what happens with the Dodgers. Just go back to my Tom Kunis interview. You have guys like me that, hey, we've watched it our whole life. We can see when a guy needs to make this adjustment, that adjustment. We like to use our eyes. We know the advanced analytics and that kind of deal. Then you have guys like Austin that present all the advanced analytics, and then you all get together and you formulate a game plan based on all of it, because it's all relevant and it all matters. And that process right there is the exact process the Dodgers go through, and it's one of the reasons why the Dodgers just very rarely miss on players.
Yeah, that is it's one of the ways that you can go about trying to make comprehensive, smart decisions as you're taking into account.
It's how you win the margins, as you say it.
It's trying to win those margins. It's trying to take into account as many factors as possible. So just as statistics can't predict everything, it is also very hard to quantify things that you're able to see with just your eyes in general. So if you're able to combine those two, you're able to make a little bit of better predictions. And even if they're not accurate 100% of the time, which they won't be, I think you're able to have that process work out better and better as you do it more and more. And I think you're going to see more positive results than negative. So these are fun, good conversations that the club has, and things to very well keep in mind that organizations, when they're trying to make sure that everything is accounted for, do. And we're trying to emulate a lot of the thought processes that the Dodgers have, and some of the attitude that they have. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
As the Dodgers go into spring training, we're trying to give you an idea of the exact type of conversations and the evaluation process that they are going to be going through with all of these players that are on the margins, right?
That is absolutely right.
Okay, hey, we have a super chat, Austin Denard, and we're showing Miguel Vargas here. If Miguel Vargas comes out on fire hitting 400, would that be good enough for him to make the Major League roster? If so, who's the odd man out? I don't think there's anything that Miguel Vargas can do to make the Major League roster. Max Muncy is going to be the third baseman. Miguel Rojas is going to be the fifth infielder. And then also I think Chris Taylor is going to be the fourth outfielder, you're actually going to have five outfielders because you're going to have Chris Taylor that can play outfield. Then you're going to have a platoon in right field. And then you could say you have a sixth outfielder with Mookie Betts. So unless somebody gets hurt, I just don't think there's anything Miguel Vargas can do to make the 26-man roster leaving spring training.
If he hits for 400 with power and he's able to draw walks and he's able to do that for good 2-month stretch, it's going to be almost impossible for the Dodgers to keep him down at the minor leagues. The very real question is, okay, what happens? How do you make room for him? And the only option that I see, especially because he's going to be in the outfield. I don't think you keep a seventh outfielder. I think it would potentially come at the expense if Manny Margot comes out and he's not the exact type of player that you think, because he only has one more guaranteed year of club control.
Hot take of the day, Austin Brubaker. Wow.
If Miguel Vargas is hitting 400 with power and he's drawing walks, and Manuel Margot has an 85 WRC plus at the big league level, perhaps it's time to reevaluate things and give Miguel Vargas another chance.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but you really think the Dodgers would go there the way they operate?
If somebody's hitting 400 at the big league level and all of the underlying metrics kind of back it out, like it's not like a 600 batting average on balls in play. If it's more like a 350 batting average on balls in play, he's able to hit for power. You can see some of those adjustments, and Manny Margot is struggling at the big league level. The reason why they went and made the Ryan Pepio and Johnny DeLuca for Tyler Glasnow and Manny Margot trade was to get Tyler Glasnow. Yes. It wasn't necessarily to get Manny Margot for the outfield. And if he's not living up to the expectations, I think that would be the guy that they would turn to, because I think a guy like Miguel Rojas is going to still play an important role as that defensive-minded shortstop infielder that can come in late in games. Chris Taylor's under contract for another couple of seasons. Jason Hayward, maybe, but I think he provides such a leadership role on this team if he's healthy. I think the most likely scenario would be if somebody gets hurt, but if that is not the case, everybody is healthy, but if Margot is not performing up to expectations and Miguel Vargas is just tearing it up, that would be the avenue where he could potentially get an opportunity at the big league club. It could be something that he has to wait 2 months, 3 months for it. But I mean, we're talking about hypotheticals and talking about probably unrealistic numbers, because nobody hits 400 in today's game. But it could be a good stretch and something to think about, because Miguel Vargas is going to be fighting for a chance to get back to the big leagues.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there's no way he's going to break spring training. There's nothing he can do in spring training to break with the club on the 26th.
Yes, yeah. I don't think you take into account a spring training 400 batting average, especially when that probably would come against some minor league level pitching as well. He'd probably get at bats in those scenarios. So don't take into spring training accounts too much, but through the course of this season, there could be an opportunity depending how guys on the big league club are performing.
Yep, make or break year for Stone, says Nando. I would agree with that in terms of being a Dodger. Just remember, just go back and look at Jesus Luzardo. It does take some people a lot longer. Gavin Stone, if he doesn't have a great year with the Dodgers, probably yes, that might be the make or break for him with this club, but there will be another club out there that will see him as being a very attractive option. He will have another chance to try to make the major leagues again with another club, even if it doesn't work out. Of course, we hope that doesn't happen, but would you agree with that, Austin?
Yeah, absolutely. He has too many tools, too much talent, that even if it doesn't come with the Dodgers, at least another organization would take a flyer on it.
Especially considering the utter lack of experience that he just wasn't given any kind of consistency or role last year, and you wouldn't imagine that he's going to get an incredible amount of consistency this year either. Other clubs would know that, so I think he would most definitely get another chance. So, hey, we have a great chat going on, Austin. This is 2 nights in a row. Guys, I can't thank you enough for helping build this Dodgers Daily community. We get after it. We love talking Dodgers baseball. We love giving our passionate opinions. We love getting into it and diving in deep with it. And I know I just had a really, really philosophical conversation with Jay through lots of different comments, and I hope I didn't make Jay mad or anything. I was just very passionate with my opinions and all that. I love Jay, and I love one thing I love about him is that we go back and forth and we give our 100% unfiltered opinions, and we both appreciate both sides of it. And it's a heck of a lot of fun. That's another reason why that you're on the show right here, Austin, is because you used to do that too. And I used to read that and go, man, that's a damn good comment right there, right?
I know. Yeah, I used to be just in your guys' shoe as well, providing comments, mostly because you would provide coverage of the minor league system. Yes. And I'm like, okay, I appreciate that. And these are the guys that I watch a whole lot of. We love hearing the comments from you guys, being able to interact with the show, and who knows what will happen in the future. Yep. I ended up on the show. Who knows?
Hey, Denard says Will Smith is blocking the catching position at the major league level. Can any of the minor league catchers play any other position to reach the show quicker? Dalton Rushing played almost exclusive first base at Louisville until Henry Davis graduated, and then Dalton Rushing became the everyday catcher only in his last year at Louisville. So Dalton Rushing has played a lot of first base. He can play third base. I can't say that I've honestly seen him with my own eyes play third base.
Yeah, he didn't at all in game for Great Lakes this past season. He did not play. Yeah, okay. He did not, no.
Okay, Griffin Lockwood Powell, I think he probably could play third base. I don't think he did it all last year. Diego Cartaya played some first base. I have not seen Hunter Fiducia play any other position other than catcher. Yainer Fernandez can play anywhere that you want him to play. That's the advantage of him. I have not seen Jesus Calise, Tyrone Lorenzo, Simon Reed play anywhere else. Jorge Puerta can play anywhere on the field. So as far as the guys that are imminent to the major leagues, the guy who has the most, I think, probably potential to have versatility would be Dalton Rushing.
Yeah, and I think with that, you're bringing up indirectly a great point, which is, yes, I think the future for the catching position, the future for clubs throughout Major League Baseball, and I've seen this a lot in recent years through the system, is positional versatility at the catching position, being able to play other positions. Right now, I don't think it's going to be enough for these guys in the immediate future to have experience at catcher or in just at first base. I think that is good. I think that provides a little bit of positional versatility. But if you have Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani as the catcher, first base, and DH, where else are you going to get opportunities besides their off days? So you have to branch it out. Perhaps that's why I think people have brought up potentially third base as a defensive versatility for some of these catchers, for a Dalton Rushing who hasn't had experience, I believe, at the minor league level at third base. Didn't have any for Great Lakes. Griffin Lockwood Powell, Locke didn't have any at third base this past season. He did play a game or two in left field, so maybe there's that positional versatility. But I think having that positional versatility at the catching position, especially as the game might move forward more with, instead of an emphasis on framing pitches, could perhaps the challenge system, the balls and strikes challenge system, gets implemented at the major league level to where framing isn't quite as an emphasis at the big league level as it is now, to where you can have a little bit more of a focus on other positions, a little bit more of focus on offensive upside and potential. I think that is going to be the way forward, and I think that's going to be the way that the Dodgers could ultimately have three different guys who can play catcher on this roster at the big league level. I saw the Dodgers teams, the Loons teams this past season have a lot of pitchers and also have a lot of guys that can play catcher, but they were positionally versatile. So I think that is the future. Right now, it's going to be something that if the Dodgers want to do that, if they are not anticipating, or if they are anticipating Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani to be on this team for the next 4+ seasons, then they're going to have to find unique ways for these guys to get opportunities, to at least provide the emphasis and the approach of having some type of leverage. Because if you guys have these guys at positions where they're blocked forever and other organizations can see that, you lose a lot of leverage. So it could be something where this upcoming season, we see some of these guys maybe get some opportunities to play some other positions to see if that will work. Still get a lot of reps at catcher and at first base, but to provide a little bit more of positional versatility. I think that's going to improve their value if they're able to stick there. And that's some of the wonderful things about guys that can play a lot of different positions.
Hey, that is an absolute great question. Hey, by the way, very jealous of Mr. Seabad. You know why?
Why is that?
Going to be at the game tomorrow. Wearing pink and a Pink Floyd shirt. Hey, how about that? We don't need no education, right? We just need some Dodgers baseball. How about that? With a Brooklyn hat. Oh, wow. Pink Floyd shirt, Brooklyn hat. I will be watching. If I see a Pink Floyd shirt and a Brooklyn hat, I will say hello to Denard. That is awesome. Okay, One-Eyed Dragon, it's a small world, but I wouldn't want to have to paint it, says Stephen Wright. Yeah, Stephen Wright once, I think it was Stephen Wright, said, hey, I had a dream that somebody stole all my furniture and replaced it with an exact replica. I think we're talking about the same guy there. Hey, so yeah, we're having a great conversation here. Hep C says, you think the Dodgers will push Alexander Albertus and Eugenry Vargas to single A? That is something that honestly, Hep C, I don't have any information on there. Eugenry Vargas, I did talk to Manny Pimentel about him, did not ask him that question. So I've got no information for you on that. I apologize.
Yeah, it's really tough, especially at the complex levels or at the Dominican Summer Leagues. For those type of levels, I think it's really difficult to get a lot of information and get a lot of insight, and especially because we don't have eyes ourselves, not able to watch that. Not entirely sure. I wouldn't be able to give an honest, good, straightforward answer. I think there are both possibilities that you could see. Get an opportunity at some point in Rancho. I think they're moving some of the calendar around with some of the complex or DSL leagues. I think to where it might be a little bit earlier in the season that could present opportunities in Rancho, maybe later in the season. It all depends on how the Dodgers see their development. They know a lot better than I do. I can only guess, just like you could.
Hey, random, T-minus 1 day till we're rolling it out. Looking forward to riding with Dodgers daily into the season. Well, random, I can't tell you how good that makes Austin and I both feel, right?
Oh, yeah. No, and we got a lot of exciting, fun stuff that's going to be coming up here on Dodgers Daily. You guys have been awesome through the course of the off season, but we can't be more excited to get into the regular season, into actual baseball, where you get to see the Dodgers, we get to see the affiliates in play, and we got a lot of really good, exciting stuff that's going to be coming up here on Dodgers Daily. We're excited that you're going to be rolling with us into this season, and hope you stick with us.
By the way, on the website side of things, www.dodgersdaily.net, I have articles on all the prospects with breakdowns of them that you need to follow. So if you want to just take your phone with you, open up Dodgers Daily, click open. There's like 4. It's a series of, I think it's like 5 articles, and it's all the prospects that you would want to watch that you're going to probably see on the main field. So definitely check that out on Dodgers Daily. We also have a question of what do the guys that aren't invited to spring training, what do they do? Well, there's a couple things like a John Rooney. They can be in the backfield. They can play the games in the backfield, and the games in the backfield are less organized in the sense that, one guy might lead off the same inning, or he might run first base like 32 times, something like that. So it's a little bit more less structured and more geared towards instruction. And then all of a sudden you'll be sitting there like Ryan Ward was last year, and you say, hey, big boy, you're playing on the big field tonight, right? And you get that big smile, and it's just one of the most exciting moments of your life. So some guys will stay in the backfields, and that they'll do all the drills and the more fundamental type scrimmage type games. And then other guys will float back and forth like Alec Gamboa and John Rooney will between those backfields and the main field with the big guys.
Yeah. No, they're still going to get their work in. They'll still be working through all sorts of stuff, and they'll be probably on the backfields, but you will see some of these guys that will get the call up, and they will get some action in spring training, and that's some of the most exciting stuff that you can see in spring training.
Denard says, can't wait to watch Oklahoma come play at Dell Diamond and Round Rock. That Dell Diamond is absolutely an awesome place. There's a lot of characteristics of the old ballpark in Arlington that they built into it, which was just an awesome facility. I remember going back to the old Arlington Stadium, which was a glorified AAA stadium, and watching. Matter of fact, I saw Nolan Ryan, I think, pitch against Billy Wagner at Arlington Stadium. I may have my timeline off there, but I go back to the old Arlington Stadium, but I love the ballpark in Arlington. I love how they built some of that into Dell Diamond there in Round Rock in the Austin area. That is an awesome place. So, yes, that's going to be fun, too. Random Hero, getting the Bernie Williams comp on DePaula makes me wonder if DePaula plays the guitar. Yeah, no doubt. One-Eyed Dragon says the Dodgers have an embarrassment of riches. Gregory, good evening to you. And I say it all the time, Austin. We don't have the biggest crowd, but
it's a pretty cool crowd.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool crowd. That's right. Every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. 6 o'clock Pacific. Denard says Baltimore's overloaded in hitting in the minors, but they are in need of pitching. Are the Dodgers and Orioles, in your opinion, Austin, are they a good trade partner?
Oh, that would be interesting, especially because they had Kyle Bradish go down with an injury. He was one of those up-and-coming, really good starters that they were hoping to rely upon this upcoming season to be that number 2 or number 3 type starter in their rotation. Baltimore is an incredibly talented organization. They have so many guys in the farm system, similar to what the Dodgers. They just got an insane amount of depth, an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
And so potentially, if they're looking for pitching, if they see some of the guys that the Dodgers have and they want to make more of a upper level prospect for prospect swap, maybe there is a fit. If they really like some of the arms that the Dodgers have, you could see that potentially as an out of the box type option. I don't think they're going to be, I think they'd be looking for some of those guys that are ready to go up to the big league level that they could potentially rely upon. They probably look through some of the options that they currently have, because I think they typically would prefer to stay in-house for a lot of their options. That just seems to be the approach of that organization and that front office. They haven't been too incredibly aggressive, but if things get desperate at the pitching side, you could perhaps see an out-of-the-box move. They might go after a little bit more established big league level, but perhaps they're looking for some really good up-and-coming talent that the Dodgers provide, and there could be a good match there.
Hey, Gregory, these teams better start spending money or they're going to be left in the Dodgers' dust. The gauntlet has been thrown down. I like it, man. Can't wait. Let's just get this thing started tomorrow, right? One Eye Dragon. Let's get this thing going. Soul Bro. Hey, good evening, Soul Bro. Haven't seen you in a while. Thank you so much for joining. Always love it when Soul Bro joins. What do we always say about the crowd, Austin?
Oh, it's not the biggest, but it is the best.
No
it's
doubt
cool
about
crowd.
it. Soul Bro is absolutely a rock star. Can't wait for the season to start. Random Hero and Hep and a couple of the people here in the chat are having a conversation back and forth, I think, about some definite trade prospects. And so, hey, Random Hero, Dodgers Daily, any chance of doing some watch party streams during spring training? We could do that. What do you think, Austin? No doubt.
I am all for watching games. I'll be watching a lot of these games anyway on TV. I just got to make sure that I'm not streaming during work hours. I don't think work would particularly like that a whole lot. So we'd have to work around that, but we'll see what we were able to come up with.
Dude, you're smart enough to figure out how to keep them from finding out about it, right? Like you got a VPN and all that where you can divert your IP address and keep it away from them,
it's
right?
not about that. It's if they because obviously everybody at my work tunes in to Dodgers Daily just like everybody else, and so they all of a sudden we go live,
sorry.
And then it's all of a sudden a thing like, oh wait, what is he doing? He's supposed to be working right now. I'm supposed to be in a meeting, so probably not the smartest thing for me to do. But we'll find sometimes. There's going to be plenty of Dodgers spring training games, and there's going to be plenty of regular season games as well.
Hey, Harley, you are 100% correct. Some of the best scouts are the ones who can just go and watch a kid, no speed gun, just watch. But just watch it, just like the Tom Kunis that signed Outman. Guys like that. Some of those guys are the best scouts. You're 100% correct with that. So, hey, we have a great conversation going on. So, Soul Bro, if Will Smith were to get injured, who would be the primary catcher? I think the Dodgers would probably go out and get a major leaguer at that point. Fiducia, would Barnes just continue to be backup or maybe earn a couple starts? I honestly think the Dodgers would probably go out and go get a veteran.
That probably would be. I would say if Austin Barnes gets injured, I think Hunter Fiducia fills in that role very much well.
Yes.
But if it's something where Will Smith is going to miss significant amount of time, I think the Dodgers would feel much more comfortable getting a major league veteran presence that they could rely upon, that they can trust with working with the staff and be at least pretty solid production wise at the plate. I don't know if they would trust an Austin Barnes and Hunter Fiducia tandem at the catching position. I would assume that is a scenario where you're saving up some of your trade pieces in case that happens as an insurance type policy.
If Hayward turns, hey, man, we've had some just absolute 5-star questions tonight, right? Hey, Denard, if Hayward turns into a pumpkin and Margot is a bust, what's the backup plan?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Mookie Betts is one of those backup plans. Perhaps Chris Taylor gets more playing time out in the
Mookie Betts,
outfield.
Willy Adames.
Willy Adames is one of those guys. Maybe Miguel Vargas works out and is able to perform and play in the outfield. Maybe Andy Pages proves that he's ready, although that's going to take a little bit of time. They're going to give the Hayward Margot at least a little bit of time to be able to work on the platoon splits. They have a lot of expectation. They don't have to be the 3-hole hitter of this club.
Right.
They don't have to
Great
have that
point.
level of production. They just have to be serviceable enough and well enough, play pretty solid defensively, get pretty solid offensive production to where they're not liabilities at the plate and they can put themselves in the best position to succeed. And then if that doesn't work out, or if you want to use some of the trade pieces to get a little bit better of pieces than in Hayward and Margot, then you can attack it from there. So I don't see it as too much a concern right now, but there are different options that the Dodgers have, and that's the beauty of positional versatility is you can move guys around. And even if it's something where, man, you look out and there's no real good outfield targets on the trade block, but maybe there's a good second baseman, Mookie Betts can move right back to the outfield, and you can, or if you can look after a shortstop as well, move Gavin Lux to second and get Willy Adames at short. Yep. There's a lot of different options that positional versatility provides to where if needs come up, you can move and shuffle guys around and feel pretty confident in doing that.
And a lot of it's going to depend on how Gavin Lux is doing at short and that kind of deal. But I think you hit it though. I think the first thing they would probably do is put Miguel Vargas in left, especially if he's hitting the ball well in Oklahoma City, move T.O. to right and stay with it that way. If that didn't work, then you just put Mookie Betts back in right field. You move Gavin Lux to second base. You go get Willy Adames, and you end the whole deal. I think those are your two plans right there as you go into the season. Random Hero, I don't think I'll get used to the 1, 2, 3 of Mookie, Freddie, and Shohei until October. It's just too wild to wrap my mind around. It is very, very exciting. Soul Bro says Freddie is great protection for Shohei. Pitchers are going to have to pitch to him. One-Eye Dragon, all in all, it's just another brick in the wall. Yeah, I love Pink Floyd there. Hey, by the way, when I was in high school, I had 6x9s, and Pink Floyd's music, 10 inches and 12, they're fine. But like Aerosmith and Pink Floyd, they would just bump a 6x9 just perfect, man. And it was just my 82 Monte Carlo, baby. I would just rock up and down the street in my 82 Monte Carlo with Pink Floyd, and then eventually it was Guns N' Roses and AC/DC and all that. But I love Pink Floyd, Aerosmith, all of that. We're getting off a little bit of tangent. You could get me off on a lot of that all day long. But, hey, I think we're coming down to the end. Cyrus, good evening, Cyrus. Cyrus actually says no on Willy Adames. He's still pushing Muncy off of second base in the World Series. And One-Eye Dragon says, in Lux we trust. And Soul Bro says, I'm a Lux fan. Let's go Kenosha. So, hey, man, we have had a great show tonight, Austin. The crowd has been simply fantastic. We can't thank you guys enough. One last reminder, if you haven't done it, we only have 35 likes. We need those likes to go up over 100. We need comments, and we need people to go subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and spread the word about Dodgers Daily. Last comments, Austin.
Yeah, I mean, we are on spring training games eve. Right before tomorrow is going to be the days when the Dodgers are going to start spring training games. I mean, we are here. Baseball is back. It is 2024. The Dodgers have arrived, and I'm expecting a lot of really good, fun things. I'm excited. I'm anticipating what Gavin Stone is able to do tomorrow. Michael Grove is going to be pitching. There's going to be a lot of excitement. There's going to be a lot of buzz around Dodgers camp, and it's just going to be good to have the game of baseball, the greatest game that's ever been invented, baseball, back. We're going to be able to sit down and watch it. For those of you lucky enough to be able to attend spring training games, that is awesome. And for those of you can't attend spring training games will come soon enough, whether that be for the Dodgers being able to go visit Dodger Stadium and see this team live in action, whether you're able to see other games, some of the affiliates. I know I'm excited about April 5th, Great Lakes Loons opening day for the Dodgers when they open up in Korea and then they ultimately make their way to the United States. It's going to be a lot of fun. It all starts tomorrow with spring training games starting.
It does. So, hey, we have had a heck of a good time tonight, and we want to thank everybody else again for tuning in. And until next time, which will be Friday evening, we're going to try to get all 4 people together and have a good time there. Until then, go Dodgers. Good luck, Gavin Stone. Good luck, Michael Grove. The Shohei Ohtani era is here.